sector has been among the worst by the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. It made an enormous disruption and entropy in the education sector, a disorder that is going to be more constructive, progressive, collaborative, and solve-state for both students and teachers. Although there have been challenges to higher education in the past, recent COVID-19 pandemic outbreak calls for reform may provoke a change in higher education in 21st century. Today, the chosen area of one's endeavor is only by his or her imagination. In other respect, all the world is a platform. At this moment, let us look up to Almighty Father, Almighty God, for his choicest blessing on education system and also on today's program. Now, I would like to request Mr. Sandeep Naik to play Teri Aradhana, the song sung by co-convener Dr. Anida Vikianand, Associate Professor, Department of Chemistry, St. John's College, Agra.
Section
song. The education sector has been no exception in today's technology-driven world. Moodle, webinars, smart classroom, mobile education, LMS have been used as teaching learning tool. This tech-led education has softened the blow of COVID-19 on the education system of the world. To enlighten you more on this account, we have a distinguished resource person, our alumnus of St. John's College, Dr. Vinidhi Gupta, Associate Professor, Department of Chemistry, Sri Tikaram Kanya Mahavidyalaya Aligarh is with us on Zoom platform. She is going to speak on searching for light at the end of tunnel COVID, speculations on sustainable education. To introduce our distinguished guest, I would like to call upon Dr. Anida V.K. Anand, Associate Professor, Department of Chemistry, St. John's College, Agra, to introduce our resource person to delegates, Dr. Anida V.K. Anand.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you. And good morning, everyone, sir, and all the participants, especially Dr. Vinidhi Gupta. I would like to introduce you. Dr. Vinidhi Gupta is Associate Professor in Organic Chemistry in Sri Tikaram Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Aligarh. She has done her graduation, her post-graduation, PhD from Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar University. She has been an alumnus in our college, that is St. John's College. She was the first person who was sanctioned the research project from UGC CSIR for her institution. She has been a member of many national, international scientific societies. She has been a member of, she is a member of American Chemical Society, life member of Indian Science Congress, life member of Systems of Society India, life member of Chemical Research Society in India. She has been a resource person in many conferences, international and national, all across the country. She also presented papers in international and national conferences. To her credit, she has more than 12 to 15 publications in international journals. She is on the committee of her college, very important committee, working as a very important person. She is on the IQAC committee, on the NAC committee, UGC committee of her college. As a member of the UGC committee of her college, Dr. Vinidhi Gupta drafted the IDP, that is Institutional Development Plan, because of which they received a special additional assistance of rupees 25 lakhs under the banner of UGC. And ma'am, we invite you, we welcome you and to this webinar, and we are so glad to have you in our midst. And I welcome all my guests. I welcome all the participants who are participating in this webinar. Thank you so much.
Over to ma'am.
Respected Professor Vice Chancellor, I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Respected Professor Vice Chancellor, Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar University, Professor S. Principal of St. John's College, Agra, Dr. Susan Verghese, Head of the Department of Chemistry of St. John's College, and all my esteemed colleagues from the Department of Chemistry of St. John's College as well as the neighboring. I am honored and humbled to be here to just express my views on the ongoing your college department has been hosting on development post-COVID. My talk, as Madam has put, is I'll be speculating on the sustainability of education per se. So post-COVID, the past lectures on these has actually very find the trauma of a common man on many fronts. And society stakeholders are trying our best to rectify and salvage whatever we can. And this webinar series is also for the same. We can definitely say that humanity has suffered disaster and resurfaced. In fact, they have rediscovered the joy of living. So once the survival concerns start manifesting into what you can say the thrival concerns, the whole narrative changes. Should I put it across as my slideshow as what you can say?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. Perfect.
So, I said the whole narrative changes when we start manifesting social concerns into a thrival, proactive mindset. Now, this pandemic actually saw the onset of technology. We had technology to support us. There was a huge surge of internet and technology since lockdown because that was the only means of social. We saw birthday parties, etc., all on social network. All professional activities, we are having one now, job interviews, consultation agencies, home delivery agencies, all started operating on on internet and technology. The survival concerns just to survive during lockdown started thriving. We had a near shutdown of the manufacturing units. They started opening their machinery for development of new products which were needed by the society during lockdown. Manufacturing thermal detectors, wrist temperature measurement systems, automatic body temperature measurement systems, mask making machines, etc. And in fact, I know of certain units in Uttarakhand who were manufacturing garments for Van and Alan Solly. They closed shop and they started manufacturing units. The YouTube became the MyTube, our tube. We saw extremely interesting videos about the revival of nature. We saw interesting, innovative ideas about how to at home, sanitizers at home. We saw interesting being housewives with the limited essentials they had. Preservation of food because the essential items available in market. So, came to the need of the hour. And amidst all this, in mid-June, China COVID-19 Tech Expo. So, in the irreversible mess they made worldwide. Now, somehow when an unlocking was announced by the government, it generated anxiety. We wanted the society to come back to normal. We wanted the wheels of the economy to start moving. In spite of all that, we were confident that the number of cases will rise. And as per Arogya Kavach, we see a 3% rise in the cases per day. We are aware why we were anxious. We were aware of the patterns of our people, the self-centered amongst them. But that is not without reason. It is a matter of survival for majority of the population. Each one is fighting their own war for survival. How can I expect the person next to be sympathetic to me who is also fighting the same battle? Now, in such a scenario, cases where congregation of people was expected, they were closed shop, whether it be the picture halls and whether it were our schools and colleges. I come to this point of sustainability of education system. I have to ponder upon what was our education system. In fact, we have suffered a major setback. So the schools and colleges, our system is actually paralyzed, completely paralyzed. The many, I feel that we have been managing one education system which was driven by the colonial regime to suit their ends. We have dependence on the over physical classroom methods of teaching. Master the what you can say, the art, repeat it whenever required in examinations, create versatile students, because our infrastructure, our education system has no such flow to this goal. Our publication and research has poor reputation globally. When we as students, we find that they are incapable of even their own syllabi. For myself, I say for myself that when I go beyond my scope of teaching, I feel my learning capabilities have been clipped. It takes time for me to understand a new knowledge or take up a new knowledge or a new study material. The reason is education system is extremely rigid. We have no horizontal and no vertical flexibility to it. At a very early age of 17 years or 18 years, learner is expected to take up a subject of one and then pursue it as a vocation in life. Not provide for latent change in disciplines. If I want to just chuck teaching and take up, I don't have the scope to do so. The colleges, coming to the colleges and infrastructure, majority of colleges we know are not in a very good condition in terms of buildings. They need constant. In such a situation, absolutely not possible for an institution to focus on development of educational resources and technology. The government participation to this effect is negligible, or in fact nil. There is this knack. An institution is expected to have mandatory certification from a government agency about the lack of infrastructure in that institution. We know of the lack of infrastructure in an institution. Money of about 4 to 5 lakhs, which a college, the government agency, could be well used on the development of the college. So, all in all, government participation should be improved. And present dilemma of the government shows high level of uncertainty to move on with teaching how to have evaluation systems. So present education system is not so bad. We have been able to create a society, though there has been a decline in an educated society. We are educating students to a particular level. We have the kind of students who go abroad. They take basic education here, go abroad higher education. Their aim is not at all to contribute their knowledge for the nation or the country per se, but for themselves. Materialistic, machine-like, self-centered, place pressure on the natural resources to just fulfill their desires, earn more and spend more. But our education system needs to be improvised upon. It has to be foundations. We need students who are sensitive enough to establish an equilibrium between materialism and environment that can ensure that their resources would be sustainable for future generation. This major talk about environment and natural resources. So the questions or the speculations which loom large before that, has the present education of the system the capacity to actually resurrect human resource? More important so, what should be the education itself so as not to get paralyzed in situations like these? It's given us an opportunity to bring about some fundamental changes in our education system? Will these changes brighten our future? We have about 15-20 years more to live. Will it brighten our future? Will it brighten future generations? The question again is that as our government is struggling to revive economy and address problems like healthcare, infrastructure, etc., will investment in education be a priority to-do list? Now, the past lectures of this webinar has been sustained post-COVID. I will just have a peep on how I perceive sustainable development. The general definition, which is actually sustainable development, has been derived from the World Commission on Environment and Development by the United Nations, which is now called the Report of 1987. Now, report or that definition says that all the universe need to come together for sustainable development universe. And if this formula works, human being would have the right to a decent standard of living, health, education, moral values, security, etc. It actually means, or it can be defined as a operations on the environment for the economic development of a society to meet the present needs of man. Or it may be a mechanism to educate, sensitize the stakeholders of society so that maintain natural resources for future generations. We work upon environment for society. In September 2015, United Nations a program Envision 2030.
पता नहीं कैसे हुआ
भूल गया जब खुलना था उसको तो टाइम लगा mute please mute I request mute yourselves. So 2020 and 2030 we have about 10 years to go. For Envision 2030, United Nations drafted 17 sustainable development goals, of which we yesterday also. The sustainable goals are expected to bring sustainable development to the universe. The fourth sustainable development goal is quality education for sustainable development of. I need to tell you that there is a between my talk and education for sustainable development. Education for sustainable development is expected to create a responsibility which has the capacity to absorb disasters. What we actually need to talk about is the quality of education, sustainability of education. Our education should have the capacity and ability to bypass like COVID. It should be a mechanism can change tracks. It can oscillate between troughs and crests like a video game. So that if there are hurdles, we can continue with immortal or lasting knowledge. It should not get interrupted under any circumstances. And if we are able to achieve that through an education which continues lasting knowledge under circumstance, that might be a key society. Here I have an example before all of us about the environmental education, the dilemma of environmental education. The whole sustainable is about environment, but we need to see here what has happened. Under Envision 2030, the India, under its Ministry of Human Resource and Development, environment education as a compulsory part of a curriculum, all levels of education. All boards were directed that education be made as a compulsory subject. Refresher programs for teachers, policymakers are being. Many government and non-government organizations are collaborating with colleges to promote education for sustainability. But we know how environmental education is being handled in our institutes. We do a single period in the whole year for environmental education. The student just gives the exam of environmental education with it. But what actually we should have done, we should have designed the program of environment in such a way so that the impact of the knowledge of environment should have resonated in the minds of the learners long after they would have left their educational corridors. We have not done that. Coming to, again, sustainable development, there are three foundation pillars of sustainability: sustainable economy, sustainable society, and sustainable environment. The three entities foundation pillars of sustainability. The three have to exist in a dynamic equilibrium with each other. And the second is that the three of them are affected by human activities. Hence, it is the onus of an educated human being to maintain the dynamic equilibrium between economy, society, and environment. This is actually a holistic approach to sustainable development. It happens. Quote Ms. Meenakshi Lekhi, MP, New Delhi. Sustainable development needs the concerted effort of all developed nations, as they have smaller populations than most underdeveloped and developing nations, some of the greatest consumption levels and carbon footprint. It's necessary that these nations take responsibility for their contribution to farming and resource depletion and put in their best effort. Coming again to this, smaller societies, environment. What has education for sustainable development done in developed countries? It has made them sensitive to the needs of the developing countries and the developed countries. So the purpose of quality education is not fulfilled. In fact, it is lacking. Now, we can, like I said, I'm speculating. There are certain examples or definitions which come to my mind that it may be a change in the educational culture in a college, which would generate the need for lasting learning, lasting activities, a systematic thinking, so that we all have the mandate behavioral qualities of existence, tolerance, adaptation, innovation, creativity, but most importantly, self-reliance and self-resilience. Underdeveloped and developing countries, the workforce should have capacity to sensitize developed nations on account of their lack of sensitivity. That confidence needs to be in us, which can train a human resource through skills in education so that they can anticipate the disasters which strike our world in future. Now, post-COVID, or we are not post-COVID as yet, sustainability of education has been challenged. We actually need to work upon the practice and the purpose of education. The policy is not my arena actually, but the policy is on basis of the practice and the purpose. The consumerist temperament of man needs to be disoriented. We need to impart more of holistic education to bring about the change in the consumerist temperament of man. On a very personal note, I would like fiber of tradition, culture, regional religion be incorporated in all levels. This should be actually in conjunction with educational philosophy and educational psychology. It will bring about a lot of awareness amongst learners, also a lot of tolerance in our society. On another note, the knowledge and of different regions can be brought on a common platform with regions to see and perceive. For all people to take up a skill or a knowledge as per their need. In fact, this will bring about prosperity in the society. The quality of workforce is going to improve. If the quality of workforce improves, the quality of the society or the prosperity of society will automatically occur. And should be the purpose of sustainable education. This diagram on the previous one can help explain a bit of sustainable education. All entities have a dynamism themselves. The important thing is that traditions, culture, environment, society, economy, and sustainability related to human behaviors and human activities. Hence, an education system as the foundation of tradition, culture, region, and religion at its core of a particular environment can help in the socio-economic development of that environment in a lasting manner. And actually, that should be the purpose of sustainable. If we take up this logic, then there are two major entities we act on: the population of the region and foundations of ancient tradition. The population is generally defined by its size, density, age group, birth rate, and death. By and large, a population needs to be physically strong and mentally well. It should have the capacity to train, learn, think, and innovate. The mental well-being is well because the population should have the capacity to live in harmony with nature. All ancient traditions promote civic responsibilities and social values. To be sensitive to countrymen, there has to be a restricted and between different age groups so as to maintain respect and again identification of and move on in future with it as a profession. Otherwise, is also the foundation of our ancient tradition. Coming to it in Indian context, extremely gifted in terms of human resource. 67% of our population is between 50 to 65 years of age, which is a very strong active. And India, by what you can say, has been a sustainable society. Guru, rich and prosperous. There was a time when it was the majority of the Indians lifestyle based on reuse, reduce, and recycle. We all at times laugh that a garment we actually wear lands up as a duster. But this is not of choice. This is mainly because of economic constraints. Distancing like namaste and touching of feet is apart from this, yoga celebrate. United Nations has made International Yoga Day. So yoga has the power actually to the spirit of an individual with the spirit of the supreme. It's extremely it's an extremely interest to motivate our workforce to work hard, to be more productive. It also has the power of concentration, just like meditation, to just focus, generate relaxation, calmness. Then the yoga, we have abstinence, we have control of breathing, asanas, then we have control of desires, concentration, meditation, internalization. There are so many which actually can generate social and moral value in an Indian if we practice this in India. Note what can be the flow chart of a holistic or a transformational education. Learning contents need to be upon issues related to agriculture, climate, biodiversity, etc. Knowledge, skills, history, religions from ancient times to the present need to be introduced at every level of curriculum. Learners will be able to relate to these issues because they will be aware of changes in these sectors in the last few decades. Then we have the pedagogy and the instructional mode of teaching. That should be more learner-centric. It has to be interactive, exploratory. There has to be a level of learning. The learning methods need to be transformed. This really develop interest and confidence in a learner. This is the problem presently. we find who are neither interested, neither they have. So also activity-based learning would be a very interesting way to bring about instructional patterns. The learning in needs to be redefined. We have physical class, but we need to incorporate them with virtual classrooms that what you can say with the support of internet and technological classroom, so that we can create learning environment, create collaborative learning spaces. The learner have information-based learning, the learning on basis, and we can have evaluation system based on application. If we are able to inspire, empower our learners from a very young age, they will automatically be empowered with critical thinking and analytical thinking. This would actually promote them to devise new ways, and that is called. If this happens, the society will be transformed, because people of a particular area where they live would like to flourish in that area. They would like to create that area well, so that it is their existence. But actually, there has been a stagnation in our learning environment. Back to evaluation. It is two aspects to education. We have knowledge and we have understanding. Now, system is knowledge based. Knowledge works well with memory. Students have mastered the art of memorizing and then read it on paper in exams. So the exact of the understanding of a student is not achieved. The student as per one's understanding and capability. So we need to actually incorporate new trends in our education evaluation system. So just read in the papers a few days that during lockdown, Akash Education Institutes, which runs very popular classes on medical and engineering entrance exams, for a lakh plus students from physical classrooms to systems. They had the infrastructure in place, they could do so. But say that the students could adapt comfortably, but the teachers found it difficult to adapt to this change. Like earlier, our learning capacities and capabilities have at an early age. We resist flexibility in getting. Our learning has stagnated. Our learning environments have been reduced. So the teaching learning management systems need to be. There can be no alternative to traditional physical classroom. We learn our basic skills from school. Companionship, friendship, competition, sensitivity to environment, fights, and then making up. All basic life skills, sharing are all basic life skills which we, and then we pass them on to our future generations. Lessons learned from school are remembered always. There is no doubt that it is a huge challenge for us to leave our chalk and duster and adopt online teaching mechanisms. We cannot depend on online alone, because that is not sufficient to bring about the development of basic life skills, or it is related to many health issues. So we need to incorporate virtual classrooms to physical classrooms, the physical room being the main entity. It needs to be empowered with virtual classrooms. Are called blended classrooms. If we have a physical traditional class, which is what you can say enforced with classrooms, we call them blended classrooms. Our educational and techniques will be need to be improvised upon. Our education system is definitely not bad, but it not upon to make it more versatile. And blended classrooms, in our context, I see some advantages. First of all, the students from rural areas or to very disadvantaged, or rural areas to big cities to metro, will be restricted and reduced. So they will save a lot of money, transportation, accommodation, lodging, and over. Also, if the virtual classrooms can reach distant areas where physical classrooms have not been able to reach, then the participation of students in education sector, this will increase the participation of students in education, in school education, and also in higher education. Then there is this process, this problem of continuous teaching processes. Past years, we see that we have so many, we have national holidays, local holidays, admissions, then we have examinations, holidays due to rainy season, poor air quality, etc., etc. So the effective teaching time is about 5 months. The teaching processes are continuously, we are not able to even complete our syllabi in time. That will be checked. The continuity will be maintained. So virtual learning is an option, like I said so. So virtual learning is like knowledge all over the globe. We can just catch knowledge wherever we can and get on our table. So that means virtual learning technology. And technology will create this environment if it has gadgets like the laptop, desktop, or the mobile. It is a 24/7 learning environment. The teachers and the learners both have advantage to it.
Hello.
Does not need to restrict oneself about 45 minutes. If
अब खाली हो गया ना, अब ठीक है भरवा लेंगे. अभी तो भर गया. गैस आ गई.
Excuse me, please mute yourself. If the educator is not complete the academic activity in 45 minutes, you can go online anytime and impart knowledge. The learners, on the other hand, major advantage to it. First of all, in a class, we have different students who have understanding at different paces for a concept. Here, a student can actually learn or maneuver through a tough concept at one's own pace, psychological, safe environment of home. There are major drawbacks here as well. The majority of the learners we have in college, I don't know about the school that much, but yes, in college, cannot afford a, leave aside a laptop or a desktop. This is primarily due to economic constraints. Telecommunication infrastructure also in robust enough to cater to and the speed of internet. Moreover, to our students, we come to know that it is only the GNet is able to reach to many places. It is the internet providers like Vodafone, Idea do not their outreach to disadvantaged areas. Is this problem of frequent load shedding. During this pandemic, the government of India launched Shagun Online Junction, school going students, which means good quality schools. This is a virtual platform. It has courses for classes 1 to 12. This is National Repository of Open Educational Resources. Diksha, which is the National Digital Infrastructure for Teachers. Apart from this, we have many government and non-government platforms also providing virtual learning. We all are aware of MOOC Online, that is Massive Open Online. Then there is Khan Academy, Byju's, Udemy, Share, Coursera, etc., where number of are being conducted all the time, and they are extremely good online e-learning platforms. A virtual classroom, physical classroom where a teacher and students are there, or it may be simply a virtual classroom in times like these. The teacher does not have to be an interpreter of knowledge. The teacher has to act as a facilitator and has to guide students through the learning processes. The common tools we all know may be, but it may also have a board for a reading. There has to be messaging tools, participation, breakout rooms for activity or subgroups between a class. um, excuse me, can you hear me?
विनीति गुप्ता बोल रही है स्क्रीनशॉट
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Any issue?
No issue, ma'am.
Yes.
You're audible, ma'am.
Is it going on?
Yes, it is.
So, okay. Now, if we come to the characteristics, whether it is a physical classroom or whether it is a virtual classroom or whether it is blended classrooms, there are certain characteristics which we actually have to devise. There has to be a interaction between the teacher and the student. There has to be collaborative learning, whether again within teacher or within amongst the students or teacher and the students. The interactions need to be student and learner centric. There has to be a variety of curriculum. We have to different ways how to present our material, instructional modes. We have to devise new activities so as to interest of the learner. And most important, we have to give a positive and a constructive feedback to students so as to continue with their interest and confidence. The government initiatives to have been many. Swayam is an initiative of Government of India and this thing initiative Government of India. It is a very nice platform, a number of courses and all free of cost. I myself took a course on Swayam under Dr. Vimal Rar on the chemistry of higher education. In fact, St. John's College recently also conducted a faculty development program with Dr. Rar and Dr. Bakshi. They have video lectures, videos which are downloadable and printable. They have self-tests and quizzes. There are online discussion forums. Then the National Digital Library of India, which is an initiative of MHRD, and it is being developed by IIT Kharagpur. The aim is to create a virtual repository by integrating repositories of India. To compile a number of learning resources, about 60 learning resources have been incorporated in about different languages. It is a 24/7 learning and they are working towards making it more customized. So now just coming to just summarize what I'm saying, I have a sort of foundation ahead of you. The first important would be to benchmarks. On a very personal note, I feel we can change our educational patterns here, our instructional patterns, our evaluation patterns. We as educators and are not conformed to any fixed module. There's an element of flexibility all the time, and this would to actually adapt to new knowledge. We also need to put in a plan of blended education. That is, physical classrooms need to be fortified with online education. And this will actually equip us with education which will be uninterrupted in future also. Then feeding of students needs to be stopped. They have to become the primary interpreter of knowledge. They have to be trained to understand concept as per their understanding, as per their disability. We do not have to interpret the knowledge to them and on a plate for them to consume. The examination, we just test knowledge, we test memory. It is not the correct testing. If it is an information-based learning, then an application-based evaluation. We have to test how vibrantly, how well have they understood a concept. In fact, if this happens, then the government will not be in a to be bothered about evaluation of open book system, because then that aspect will not bother us educators. In fact, if we have to implement all, it brings the onus on us teachers. It is a responsibility on us. We need constant activity on us, effort. We have to invest time in devising and designing new innovative patterns to teach our students, new patterns to give feedback to environments, to find evaluation techniques. And if we are able to do that, I think all of us are very sure that the average quality of education we impart in our unranked state colleges would actually by high quality education and raise the national bar of our education in our country. On another note, investment, it needs to be on all the stakeholders of education. And we should actually channelize funds on developing resources and infrastructure. The bigwigs should not invest in land and buildings. In fact, ahead and invest in colleges, STAG colleges, and provide us with good educational resource infrastructure. That would really actually propel some colleges on the path of progress. The privatization, they have great infrastructure and great expense, high educational expense. Government colleges like ours, we are low on infrastructure and our educational expense is also low, stopping us to merge the two together. Can't we all come together? What is stopping us? It is behavior. It is only our temperament. We need to between the haves and the have-nots. Now, since this is a highly intensive sector, we really need to devise ways so that the pressure on the government is also relieved and contribute to bring about institutions to impart that which will not be stopped in situations like these. Yes, like I write here, the grants and projects institution receives is just peanuts for infrastructure. So I conclude by saying that yes, declining values in us are reflected in declining society we live in that gets barbaric at times. So a change in our perspective, lasting knowledge is needed. We need knowledge that will critical and analytical thinking. At least our learners should evaluate their intelligence and diligence. And able to do that, this effect will ripple in a myriad other activities, all economic activities like design, culture, economics, business, environment, etc., etc. If we achieve sustaining people, achieve sustaining communities, sustaining economy, sustaining environment. Actually, this is what is sustainable development. Ma'am, you're muted.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for a very thought-provoking, insightful address on sustainable development of education. So now I would like to have interactive section. So to guide, I would request my co-conveners of this program, my colleagues from my Department of Chemistry, Dr. Rajavi John, Dr. Muhammad Anis, Dr. Ananda V.K. Anand, Mr. Praveen Tyagi, Mr. Ram Kumar Saraswat, Dr. Padma Malika Hazra, Dr. David Danish Mazzi, and Dr. Mahima Habib to ask questions.
Yes, it will be pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for a wonderful lecture. and very informative presentation. As there
Thank
is
you,
no
ma'am.
question in chat box, I think audience have understood all the things you have explained very well. So you have explained it very
No,
well.
I have.
So I think there is no question from the audience, from the participants. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being with us today.
Thank you. Though I would have really enjoyed the question round.
This is the topic where we need to debate on and on to
Actually,
emerge
yes,
and
ma'am.
evolve a new education
We have,
system which is
we have to
beneficial
really
open access system for each and every person of this country. So, ma'am, thank you very much for giving a very elaborative account on the new education system, and and especially it was an attack on the education system, and so you spoke about the SDGs and Vision 2030 program, especially in that the fourth SDGs and sustainability of education system you have explained, and transition from that. But that is what's on transition from consumerist attitude to merge and you engage into a combination of traditional and culture and environment and society and economy, then there we would finally enter in sustainable education. It's possible, then we should adapt and accommodate that into our system, and especially the virtual learning systems and systems should be adapted immediately to start our classes in the new sections. And ma'am, thank you for giving an overall overview of the present as well as now. I request Dr. Matima Mercy to Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, St. John's College, Agra, and also co-convener of this webinar, to express vote of thanks to all who made this today's program successful. Dr. Mahima Habel Mercy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, you're
I'm
audible.
audible.
Yes.
It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks to all the dignitaries. First of all, I would like to thank our God to protecting us and making this webinar a resounding success. I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ashok Mittalji, for giving his concern regarding this webinar series. I also extend sincere gratitude to our Principal Sir, Professor S.P. Singh, for all his words of wisdom that encourages us and motivates us. A very heart of thanks to our speaker of the webinar, Dr. Vinti Gupta, Associate Professor, Organic Chemistry, Department of Chemistry, Shri Tikaram Mahavidyalaya, Aligarh, speaking on the topic, Searching for the Light at the End of Tunnel COVID, Speculation on Education. Thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful and interactive talk, highlighting learning systems, means online and face-to-face, blended learning. It really helped us to understand the meaning of sustainability in education during and after this COVID era. You explained so clearly how we can cope with it by using holistic and transformational education and thinking. You emphasized e-learning government initiatives like SWAYAM, Shagun Online Junction, Virtual Learning Shala, and many more. I'm sure that all the participants have taken note of this valuable information and will be utilizing to initiate the action at their end. Further, I would like to thank our head of the department, Dr. Susan Verghese, for inspiring us and motivating us at each and every step. And I also thank her for inviting such eminent and wonderful resource person for the webinar series. I also thank my co-conveners, Dr. Raju Vijon, Dr. Mohammad Anis, Dr. Shalini Nelson, Dr. Anita V.K. Anand, Mr. Praveen Tyagi, Mr. Ramkumar Saraswat, Dr. Padma Malika Hazra, and Dr. David Danish Massey for their cooperation. As no program can be achieved by a single person, so I thank all the participants and attendees to making this webinar a meaningful and successful one. Lastly, I thank all the technical staff for taking care of this webinar to run smoothly. Thanks all of you. May God bless us all.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hello, Dr. Viniti. You have been my senior in St. Patrick many years ago. I remember you still.
Where?
Very charismatic. Dr. Viniti, you have been my senior
Yes.
in St. Patrick's.
Padma.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
yes. I
Yes.
know your father also.
Ma'am, I also know that your dad has been the principal of the SN Medical College.
Yes, I've been seeing you on screen since the first webinar series started by St. John's College. I'm very happy to see you as a faculty member here
Yes, ma'am.
at college. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're really doing your merit here. That's.
Thank you, ma'am.
Though aware, Dr. Susan, I'm familiar with many of your faculty members because they come to our college to take examinations.
Okay.
I'm with Dr. John and Dr. Anita Anand has come to our college. And then there is one more teacher, I'm forgetting ma'am's name. We have teachers. Yes, Dr. Shalini. So, yes. So you're most welcome to college. We are pleasure.
Nice to hear you, ma'am. Very nice to hear you. And you gave a wonderful talk. I think it was one of the best talks we've had. Very nice talk.
That's
No, sure it was,
that's
ma'am.
really
Sure it
humbling.
was.
That's humbling. That's humbling. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Have a nice day.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful.